I'd like to introduce an add-on for Blender called Packed Data Manager. The add-on is all about managing Blender data. But what does data and manage mean in this context? Data in Blender can be generally characterized into two groups, data blocks and what I like to call data structs. Data blocks are the base units of data in Blender. Most of them share some common characteristics. For instance, they can reference other data blocks, they can have custom properties, they are usually independent on one another, therefore they can be linked or appended, or marked as asset and easily reused. Data structs, on the other hand, cannot exist on their own. They are always part of a data block. Bones are part of armatures, object modifiers are part of objects, UV maps or mesh attributes are part of meshes. Now, what manage means is that the add-on provides tools to easily inspect, filter, select, and modify or manipulate these data blocks and data structs in various ways. To better understand the add-on's possibilities, let's go over a few examples in Packed Data Manager in action, where it really simplifies and expedites tedious tasks we often want to do in our workflows. This situation is going to feel familiar to you if you've ever worked with custom properties and drivers or custom properties and animations. In this scene, I have a cube which has a custom property named jump. It also has a driver which drives the Z location of the cube, and it has an action assigned named jump, which animates the cube's jump custom property. The driver maps the Z location of the cube and the jump custom properties value 1-to-1. So if I change the value, this causes the driver to update the Z location of the cube and the cube moves. Now the animation simply animates the custom property value. So if I play the animation, the cube also moves. Now what I'd like to do next is rename the jump custom property. So let me name it duck. And right off the bat, we'll see that some things have changed. First, the background color of the duck custom property is no longer green. This indicates that the link between the custom property and the animation is broken. Also, in the driver properties panel, we'll see the path property background turn to red. This also indicates that the link between the custom property and this value here is broken. So if I adjust the custom property value, the cube doesn't move, and also if I play the animation, the cube doesn't move. So to fix this, we need to rename these two values to match the name of the custom property. So here should be duck, and here should be duck as well. So now we see that the background has turned green. If I change the value here, the driver works, and if I play the animation works as well. When we have just one object and we know all the places where the custom property is referenced, there is no big deal to rename those places manually. However, if we had more than one object or we weren't sure of the places where the custom property is referenced, we could rename it and then have some parts of our animations broken. So let's see now how we can do the same thing, but a lot easier using Packed Data Manager. To open up the add-on, hit N in the 3D viewport to open up the side panel, and in the side panel, click Packed. Here you'll see the add-on interface. The data type property indicates which data type we want to manipulate. So here it's set to object, and this section right here, in our case, displays all the selected objects in the 3D viewport. We want to rename the custom property, so for that we need to change the data type to custom property. Now this list shows all the custom properties that it could find from the selected objects. Our object has only one custom property, so only one custom property is displayed here. This arrow icon right here will open the operation menu. Operation menu is divided into two halves. The first half contains built-in attribute operations, and the second half contains custom operations. Built-in attribute operations change built-in attributes. So what are those? For object, Built-in attributes are basically all the things you see in the object properties panel. So a location, rotation, or scale is a built-in attribute, as well as relation values here, like tracking axis, like up axis, these values here, instancing values, visibility values, and viewport display values. All of these are built-in attributes. For a mesh, built-in attributes are things like normals, auto smooth values. For a custom property, built-in attributes are things like name, description. Custom operations do things a little bit different. You can link to collection, you can select, you can add a new custom property. You can also delete and rename. Even though the name is a built-in attribute of a custom property, rename operation is a custom operation because it does more than just rename the custom property itself. If we take a look at it at the bottom, we're going to see the rename data paths in with two options, driver variable targets and action F curves. So we're going to select both of them, and to just rename the custom property, we're going to select the replace option. We're going to go over this whole rename operation in more detail in a separate video because there's just a lot going on here for this video. For now, we're just choose set new and type duck here. Hit enter. And we'll see that the custom property has been renamed to duck. It's still green. The link with the driver was not broken, and the link with the animation was not broken. So if I change the value of a custom property here, the cube moves. And if I play the animation, the cube moves as well. In this scenario, I have 5 materials marked as asset, and I'd like to change their preview type. In order to do that in Vanilla Blender, we need to select each material, expand their preview section, and we can change their preview here. So I'm going to choose cube, and I'd like this preview to be reflected in the asset browser. So how can I do that? Well, I'm going to try to refresh asset library. Doesn't work. So what you have to do is select the material and hit this generate preview button. We need to do the same thing for all the materials, same for metal, same for sand, snow, and wood. Now I'm going to select all of these and try to hit regenerate preview. It only generates for one material, so I have to do this for all of them. And this doesn't take a lot of time for 5 material assets, but imagine if you had 100, you would have to waste a lot of time. So let's see how we can achieve the same thing in a fraction of time with Packed Data Manager. I'm going to revert the file, open up the add-on panel. Now, in this case, we want to modify all materials. So we're going to have to change to global mode, select the data type to material, and now the list lists all materials available in our blend file. There's this dot stroke material, which is part of a grease pencil. It's not an asset, so we don't want this to be manipulated in any way. Now, how could we exclude this from our list? There are a couple of ways. First option is to enable the multi-select mode right here. This allows you to selectively include or exclude each item in the list. Right now, we have only 5 out of 6 objects selected, and any manipulation we do to them, only these 5 will be affected. The other option is to utilize filters. Notice this section right here. This is the first built-in filter. It filters the name of the item in the list. For example, if we want to show only grass materials, we can type grass and only grass are shown. Notice this plus button right here. It opens up the filter menu. Just like the operation menu, the filter menu is also divided into 2 halves. The first half is the built-in filter half, and the second half is the custom filter half. However, the material data type currently does not have any custom filters, so all these are built-in filters. We do not want to see any grease pencil materials, so there is a filter for that. It's called is grease pencil. We select it, and We can select the operator of the filter, is or is not, and the value, yes or no. So is it a grease pencil material? Is no. It means that no grease pencil material is shown. If we want to see only the grease pencil materials, we would select yes. Now we see only the grease pencil materials in the whole Blender file. So set it to no. And now to change the preview type, preview is a built-in attribute. So we go to the operation, look in the built-in attribute half. Where is it? It's preview render type right here. Select it, choose whatever you want. We want cube, hit OK. There you go. Now all materials have their preview type set to cube. So now to change the asset preview, go to the operation menu and click generate asset preview. That's it. Now say maybe I want to just do grass and wood. I want them to have preview render type of hair. Hit OK. Generate asset preview. Wood and grass are now displayed as hair. In this scene, I'd like to have these three planes hidden from the viewport. There are a few ways you can achieve that in vanilla Blender. One of the ways is to disable the collection. It works, however, if we check the other view layer, which is identical to our first one, these planes are still visible in it. So if we want them to be invisible in all view layers, we have to cycle through all view layers and disable the collection in all of them. Now, the other way to do that is to select all the objects we want to disable in viewports, go to the Object Properties panel, hold Alt, and click on Viewports in the Visibility section. This way, the planes are not visible in all view layers. Now we want to make them visible again. So we select all of them again and hold Alt and select Viewports. What happened? Only one of the objects became visible. So in this case, holding the Alt button and selecting the property does not work. A workaround is to enable property here so that we can now click and hold and drag over all the objects to toggle the visibility on or off. This works when all the objects are neatly packed in one collection. What if they're scattered across multiple collections? Let's see how we can achieve the same with Packed Data Manager. Open up the add-on panel, and we're going to use the custom mode here. Now in custom mode, the data type selection section is a little bit more complicated. So the first option, data type, is the data type that we want to manipulate. Then it asks us what data type we want to fetch the objects from. We have an option to choose from collection or from scene. We're going to choose collection. Next, it asks from which data type should the collections be fetched. The options are either scene or view layer. We'll pick scene. Now the add-on goes like this. It says, hey, okay, I have all these scenes. Now I need to get all the collections from these scenes. And from this scene, it managed to find these collections. So now it knows that it needs to get objects from these collections. So from each collection, it's going to take objects and display them here. Here we see all objects that the add-on could find from these collections. In this particular scenario, we're only interested in objects that are contained inside the lights collection, so we can disable other collections. Notice that we're using the multi-select mode in this case. If we do not want to use the multi-select mode, we can simply use the filter here and type light. The effect is the same. So now we have isolated these three objects, and to change their visibility, we go to the operation menu. It is a built-in attribute, so we'll look at the built-in attribute half, go to visibility, show in, disable in viewports. Yes, okay, that's it. If we want to enable them back on, go to visibility, show in, disable in viewports. No, okay. The last example we're going to take a look at involves booleans. In this scene, I've been working on a sci-fi aquarium or a health regeneration pod. I'm not really sure what this is going to end up as, and I've been kind of ignoring the outliner a little bit. If you take a look at the outliner, you're going to see that I have all my objects and cutters under a single collection. And I'd like to change that. What I'd like to do is move all my cutters into a separate collection and also rename them so that their names have a prefix indicating that they are a cutter. So how do we go about this in Vanilla Blender? First, we have to select all our cutters. We can do that either in the 3D viewport or in the outliner. In the outliner, we would have to go over every single object, click it, and see in the scene if it is a cutter or not. But I find it easier to select them in the 3D viewport. Wait, I can't. Oh, right. Some of the cutters have their selection status disabled. So I'm going to enable all of them. And now I'm going to be able to select all of them in the 3D viewport. Some of them are hard to select. Okay, I'm about done. I think this is the last one. So now I'm going to hit M, create new collection, call it cutters. And to rename them, I'm going to hit Control F2, enable the regular expression mode, find the beginning of the string, and replace it with cutters underscore. Hit OK. And I would also like to have their meshes have the same name, the same prefix, cutters, attached to the front. So I'm going to hit Control F2 again, change the objects to meshes, and hit OK. Now this wasn't too bad, but it also wasn't effortless. Let me revert the file and switch to a different view layer. In this scenario, we have all of the same objects and all of the same cutters. However, some of them are hidden in the 3D viewport. We do not have any accessories. The control panel of the pod is missing. So in order to organize our outliner in this scenario, in addition to enabling the selection status of the objects, we would also have to unhide all of the hidden objects because we cannot select them when they're hidden. So now we have to remember what objects were hidden so that after we're done organizing the outliner, we can hide them again. So let's just do that really quick. This time it should go quicker because I already know where all the cutters are and I have some experience selecting them. Hit M, cutters, okay, Control F2, beginning of the string, cutters, Control F2 again for the meshes, okay. Oh, I forgot to enable the irregular expression mode, okay. And switch to objects, okay. Now let's hide the previously hidden objects. And we're done. Compared to our previous example, this one involved a lot more hassle having to remember the objects that are hidden and having to unhide them and hide them again. So now let's see how we can effortlessly achieve the same with Packed Data Manager. First, let's open up the add-on interface. To select the cutters, we need something to identify them by. When modeling this piece, I used a built-in Blender add-on called Bool Tool, and Bool Tool, when cutting objects, adds a few custom properties to its cutters. So we can filter these objects by whether they have a certain custom property or not. Currently we are in the selected mode, but remember, some of our objects have their selection status disabled, and we don't really want to change that. So I'm going to leave things as they are because we don't have to change those properties when using Packed Data Manager. We're just going to change the selected mode to custom mode. Now, if you expand the filter section of the object list and look for the custom property filters under the filter menu, you will fail to find one. This is because custom property is a separate data type in Packed Data Manager. So all custom property filters are in custom property list. So we change the data type to custom property. And here the add-on asks us what data type we want to see custom properties from. We're not interested in armature custom properties. We want object custom properties. Objects from collection and collections from scene are okay. So now we see that the add-on was able to find these custom properties from these objects. All cutters have a custom property named Bull Tool Brush. So we can filter custom properties by this name, Bull Tool Brush. We see that only 12 objects out of 28 have this custom property. So there must be only 12 cutters in this scene and in these collections. Just for the demonstration's sake, let me duplicate this cutter and move it to a new collection named Do Not Touch. Now, after I have duplicated the cutter, we see that the add-on could find 13 cutters. But we don't want to do anything to this cutter, so we want to affect only the original 12 cutters. So for that, we can simply disable the Do Not collection, and the add-on ignores this object altogether. I'm going to delete this cutter now because it has served its purpose. And now we need to move our cutters to a new collection. We can do this by going to Custom Property Operation menu, clicking on Link to Collection. If you click it without holding the Control button, it is going to execute the operation, and then the Redo Undo panel is going to be displayed, where you can adjust the parameters of the operation. If we have more than one scene, we can choose whether we want to link these items to a new collection only in our currently active scene, or to all the scenes that are enabled in this list, or in all scenes present in the blend file. We can set whether we want to link to a scene collection or to a custom collection, and we can provide the name. I'm going to name it Cutters. Now, this option enabled will unlink the cutters from all the collections that they are currently in. This is essentially a move to collection option, because right now our cutters have been moved to a new collection, but they're also present in their old collection. So to mimic the same result we had in Vanilla Blender, I'm going to tick this option, and all our cutter objects have been moved to a new collection. As we can see, the original properties remained untouched. We didn't have to unhide them or rehide them, and also we didn't have to toggle their selection status as well. Alternatively, if you hold the Control button when clicking the left mouse button, these operation parameters are going to be displayed to you before executing the operation. So now what's left is to rename the cutters. To do that, we need to go to the Object Operation menu now, because we want to rename objects now, not the custom properties. Hit Rename. We're going to use the Replace option. And similar to the Control F2 rename panel, we also have a Find and Replace option and the option to enable the regular expression mode. We're going to find the beginning of the string, and we're going to replace it with cutters underscore. Now, if you take a look at the bottom of the operation panel, you'll see the option Copy Name to Object Data. It's going to name the meshes with the same name as their objects. Hit OK, and we're done.